You, Masa. Welcome in, everyone. Happy Thursday, meeting number 12. I hope people are excited. Yeah, really excited for tonight. We're going to be hearing from a few folks from the Air District and get a lot of information and really just learn a lot more about East Oakland air quality and ways to, improve our community health, which is why we're all here. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Maria for interpretation instructions.
Muy buenas tardes. En los controles de la reunión o el seminario web, haga clic en interpretación. Haga clic en el idioma que desee escuchar, español, Spanish, y opcional para escuchar solo en español. Haga clic en silenciar audio original. For those of you that want to hear this meeting in English, please select the English channel. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah, just a reminder for folks to switch to their appropriate language channels. I am going to start interpretation now.
Thank you. So welcome in again, everyone. I know most folks know me, but just in case, I am the youth co-chair. My name is Michaela Patton. And yeah, me, Charles, and Ayana are all super excited for tonight.
Hey.
Yes. There are the other two co-chairs, and we're really excited, have been talking about this meeting for a while now. So yeah, welcome in, everyone. As a reminder, if people have any announcements, EJ announcements for tonight, please make sure to send them in the chat to me or Charles or Ayana, so we can make sure to give you space at the end of the meeting, because sometimes we have a lot of announcements because there's always so much going on. So yeah, like I mentioned, we're going to be hearing from a few people, a few different departments at the Air District today. Hopefully get some of the questions that have been on people's minds answered and everything like that. Before we get started with the bulk of today, though, I wanted to pass it on to Esther at CBE to talk about a few updates with the CBE team.
Thanks, Michaela. Hi, everybody. So glad that you're here. So I wanted to share that those that know Lou Jane is no longer with CBE, and I wanted to say that we worked hard to replace her. I know that she was awesome and did a whole lot with you all. But we have Carly here, and I'll pass it to Carly just for a short little intro. And so glad that you all are joining us. And Carly.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Carly. I'm the new Clean Air Coordinator with CBE. I'm super excited to get to work and get caught up with all of this and to do work for you and within the community. I use any pronouns, and I can drop my email in the chat as well in case anyone wants to connect. But I will be reaching out to people as well. So thank you.
So with that, we'll be moving on to agenda, right? Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. You know me, I'm your other co-chair, Charles, Mr. Charles. Glad to be here and welcome. And so, of course, our agenda will consist of, we had our welcome interpretation, and now I'm doing the agenda. And now we'll have our goals overview from 6:10 to 6:30. In the rotation, we'll have small group breakout rooms with 3 back mid departments: Rules Development Office, Compliance and Enforcement, and Meteorology and Measurement Division. So please, if you have questions for them, get them down on paper now, or you can suggest them ahead of time in the chat. So we have then our break. Then our other rotation, a small group breakout rooms with the same people. So they'll just be moving around so that everybody gets an opportunity to share their opinion with those departments. Then we'll have our community mapping project reminder, which I'll be proud to be able to tell you guys about that. Then we'll have our East Oakland environmental justice announcements and then next steps. So let's get ready for a fun night, y'all.
Hi, everyone. Our initial meeting and agreements are notes for participation. Remember, one mic, one voice. Use raise hand function under the reactions at the bottom of the screen. Grace ourselves for one another. Take care of yourself, stretch, drink water, and breathe. Community building on Zoom, use chat and the reaction emojis to inspire and encourage one another. For any questions throughout the meeting, please use the Zoom chat. CBE and BACMed staff will be responding to your questions. Happy annual meet.
And of course, we have our community building. And so type your name into the chat with your pronouns, your affiliated organizations, and CSC members. Please raise your hand if you're not able to type into the chat, and we will have you speak aloud.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Alicia Shao, and I work in the Air District's Air Quality Planning Division, and wanted to just briefly go over this slide, which shows our timeline for the East Oakland CERP. We have been presenting the timeline at the beginning of each steering committee meeting to stay aware of where we are in the process and stay connected to this work. And we are currently in the fall of 2023. Where today we will be presenting an overview of the plan's goals, and this fall we will begin writing additional plan elements. And with that, I will pass it back to our facilitator or our first presenter. Thanks.
Esther, do you want to get it started? Or Allison?
Hi, Esther. Can you get us started?
Yeah, I apologize. I need the power.
Allison, do you mind taking us forward in the meantime?
Yeah. Let me get started. Okay. So exciting. So today we are going to start talking about goals. We'll present an overview of the goals. We'll define what we mean by goals, make some recommendations, review previous materials that the CSC has seen and discussed, and we'll ask a few questions to help create the draft CERP goals. Next slide, please. So starting with what is a goal? A goal is an outcome or end result we want to achieve. The CERP can have one or several goals. These goals should express what the CSC hopes the CERP will achieve. Next slide, please. So the purpose of this slide is to help us visualize where the goals are located within the CERP structure. At the top of the chart, there are the CERP's vision and principles, which the CSC adopted in June. The vision statement is an aspirational statement for East Oakland's future. The principles are the core values that guide how we will work together to get to our vision. So the goals sit under this, and they link that blue sky thinking with the strategy's specific actions and objectives. Another way to think about this chart is from the bottom up. Strategy statements describe the actions we will take to achieve specific objectives and identify who will take these actions. We can think of the goals as plan level and sort of creating an umbrella under which groups of strategies are organized. Next slide, please.
I got it. Thank you, Allison.
Awesome.
So our first goal is from the Portside Community, CERP in San Leandro, and states. By 2031, increase tree canopy in Portside community by 35%. Our second example is from the West Oakland Community Action Plan and the first statement of the goals and target chapter. The goals of the plan is to protect and improve community health by eliminating disparities in exposure to local air pollution. Now, this goal continues on to provide specific information about what the CSC means by eliminating disparities. A goal can be a single sentence or more complex as demonstrated on this slide. We have included these examples, but there is one way to create goal statements. Allison will now walk us through some of the recommendations from co-chairs and co-leads on goal creation. Next slide.
Thanks. Okay, so the co-chairs and the co-leads have some recommendation. And the first is that when developing goals, we should all be on the same page about what we mean by terms. So if we use phrases like environmental justice, we should make sure that we all agree on what that term means. Our next recommendation is to use what's called the SMART framework. And the next slide will go into details about what that is. The third recommendation is to refer to work that we have already completed. The CSC has already developed vision and principles, and we can build on previous presentations. Back in August, we heard about the draft emissions inventory, and we heard from Alameda County Public Health about health outcomes in East Oakland. So we can certainly use that and incorporate it into our goal writing. Our recommendation is that this fall, the CSC draft 3 to 5 goals, and then revisit those goals back in the spring, next spring in 2024, after the CSC has had some time to work on some strategies and develop the CERP, and then go back to those draft goals and see if they still align with where we're going. So that's the recommendations. Next slide, please. We wanted to dig a little bit into the SMART framework and using this Portside goal as an example. The goal says by 2031, increase tree canopy in the Portside community to 35%. So the SMART framework, it calls for goals to be specific. And in this case, increase tree canopy is very specific. Measurable, it says to 35%. Actionable, plant trees. This is an action that someone or some people can take. And by being in the CERP, it's realistic. The implication is that by putting it in the CERP, we think that we can in fact do this, or the Portside community did. And then finally, time bound. This goal has a deadline, so to speak. It's 2031, so it is bound by time. What's also interesting here is what we don't see. We don't see the why. We would expect that to be in the vision. And we also don't see the how or the who, which we would expect to see in individual strategies, which would say how we were going to increase tree canopy and who was going to be responsible for it. Next slide, please. So now we've got a little refresher on what we learned, work we've done so far. Back in May, the CSC started thinking about the vision and principles. And the CSC considered these questions. What is the future for East Oakland that we want? And what are the principles that will guide us to get to that future? The CSC did a Jamboard activity that pointed the co-chairs towards building the CERP's vision and principles around these themes: accountability, a better future, community, equity, environmental justice, flexibility, health, transparency, and solution-oriented. And I provided links to those presentations in these slides in case folks want to refresh their memories. Next slide, please. Then last month in August, we heard two presentations. The first one was about the draft emissions inventory. And we learned that the emissions inventory is an estimate of the amount of air pollution emitted within East Oakland. The emissions inventory includes 400 permitted sources. And the common East Oakland permitted sources include things like auto body shops, gas stations, and backup diesel generators. The draft emissions inventory estimates that in East Oakland, 87% of NOx emissions are from mobile sources, and 75% of PM 2.5 or fine particulate matter emissions are from permitted stationary sources. So if you want to take a look at that August presentation, you can click on the link and we'll put those in the chats and look at slide 8, beginning on slide 8. Next slide, please. Okay, also last month, we heard from Alameda County Public Health, and we learned that East Oakland has worse health outcomes compared to the rest of Oakland and compared to Alameda County. These results include higher mortality rates from cancer, heart disease, and stroke. Census tracts in East Oakland also have high rates of poverty, asthma, emergency department visits, and hospitalizations. Though there has been a decrease in African-American residents since 2000, many census tracts in East Oakland are still about 30% African-American. Also, Latinos are approximately 53% of many East Oakland census tracts. And you can see the August presentation beginning on slide 26 for more information. So some of this should be familiar, but I wanted to pause here to see if we have any questions or comments before I pass back to Esther to lead us through some discussion questions. I don't see any hands. Okay, so I will pass on to Esther.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, now discussion questions. We would like to hear from you all. Please share your wisdom with us. Spend a few minutes to reflect on all or some of the 4 questions on the slide. You can provide responses on the linked Jamboard that will appear. Verbally raise your hand or in the Zoom chat. Please include your name in your comments on the Jamboard. So 1, what information do we have now that can help us draft the CERP? What have you learned from your own experience setting goals? What do you think is important when setting the CERP goals? And for the CSC members, are you interested in volunteering to work on drafting goals this fall? If yes, please include your name. The second page of the Jam board is in Spanish. So we're looking for, thank you for including that, Alicia. So we're looking for 2 or 3 volunteers to meet, to draft goals, co-chairs, co-leads, and CSC volunteers to synthesize the CSC's ideas into draft goal statements for the CSC to review. CSC to revisit the drafts in a future CSC meeting to finalize the time estimate, which is spring 2024. So how many minutes do we have for this?
5.
Okay. So everybody, please go inside of the Jam board and set your goals, answer these questions.
I see there's a hand from Marina.
Thank you, Michaela. Marina?
Marina,
Sí, ya, sí. Está bien.
yes, yes. Please interpret for me.
¿Verdad? Yo quiero
What I want to,
que
my
que
comment
es importante,
is
¿verdad? Tener unos
that
objetivos o metas,
it is important to
porque
have
hemos
goals
participado,
or
trabajado muy duro
objectives.
hace años
We
en
have participated
la
and worked
organización
very
del
hard
CCI,
for
¿verdad?
years
Y
to organize
gracias a
the
eso nos daban
CSC,
ahí
and thanks to
talleres,
those
¿verdad?
programs,
Que nos vinieron
those
a dar
workshops
información, ¿verdad?
that you've provided information for us,
Una
correct?
meta y esa meta se
Our goal,
ese objetivo
we
se
had a
logró.
goal and
Ahora
we were able to accomplish our goal. Now as a committee, that I'm a committee member,
que estamos aquí
between
participando,
all of us participating,
yo creo que podemos tener ese objetivo,
I
alcanzar
think
ese
that we
objetivo
can
de lo
have
que
that
queremos
goal,
del
that
East Oakland,
objective
del Oakland,
to
¿verdad?
what we want for
Porque
East
sabemos
Oakland,
que la
right?
comunidad
Because
está
we
más
know that our community
impactada, ¿verdad?
is the
En
one that is
diferentes
most
formas.
impacted
Yo
in
siempre
different
he dicho
ways.
aquí, la
I've
delincuencia,
always
la
shared
basura,
here
la
the trash,
contaminación,
the
la
criminal
pobreza,
activity,
o sea,
the
tenemos absolutamente
pollution,
todo, la
poverty,
salud, ¿verdad?
health,
Nuestras personas, nuestros niños con
our
asma,
individuals,
otras
our children that are
bacterias,
having asthma. I've
enfermedades
seen the chart
que
for
hemos
Alameda County.
estado muriendo
Many have been dying here because of all of those illnesses, with all of the impact that has happened here in East Oakland. Therefore, we need to have that goal or that objective that we want to have as a committee. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult because we have to work hard and we have to have funding so that people are able to work for everyone. Because if there's no funding, right, we can't accomplish the work that we need as an objective or as a goal to accomplish that goal. I know we have some funding right now, but if we need more funding, we can do much more. And to get the work and fulfill goals for CERP, I would like to volunteer because I love this work, because of my health, because of the allergies that I have and the asthma that my daughter has. So let's think about all we're suffering here in this area. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Marina. Yeah, so we definitely put your hand up there. Put your name up there. So thank you all for providing those comments. So the co-chairs and co-leads will be looking for the CSC members that want to volunteer to help draft the goals this fall. The group was synthesize the ideas collected this evening and use these ideas to draft goal statements for the CSC to review. The CSC will revisit the draft goals at future CSC meetings to review the goals. Again, want to say thank you all for providing those comments and look forward to getting the final, I'll say draft, and I'll pass it.
Thanks so much, Esther and Allison. Appreciate that. Charles, would you be able to please share a quick 1-minute intro of what our breakout rooms are going to be with BACMed departments? Okay, if Charles isn't available to do that, Michaela, would you like to share a little intro for folks?
Oh, I'm back now. I'm sorry. So everybody, we would like to break into our small group breakout rooms now, and some of the different divisions we'll have: Rules and Strategic Policy Division, Compliance and Enforcement Division, and Meteorology and Measurement. And I'm sure Katie will be able to explain that to you guys, what that means and how we can use these tools for our benefit.
All right, thank you, Charles. I am going to go ahead and open the breakout rooms. If you get a pop-up asking you to join a particular breakout room, please do so. 1/3 of the folks will remain here in the main room, and anyone requiring translation or interpretation must also remain in the main room. Thank you. I'm opening rooms now.
I also joined one of the breakout rooms, Massam, right? Or
Yeah, you got an invitation, right?
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm staying here, Massam?
Yes, you're right here, Charles.
Okay. Make it easy for me.
Okay. All right. I feel like most folks have joined. Does Allison want to share slides and Purnima and Elizabeth want to get us started?
Sure. I am going to share right now.
Hey, Mosam, am I in the right breakout room?
Yes,
Okay,
this is the right room.
thank you.
Okay.
Allison, could you share slides, please?
Sorry, I thought I was sharing Jamboard. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Do you want us to go ahead and introduce ourselves while Allison is pulling up the slides?
Yeah, please.
Sure, I can go ahead and go first. My name is Elizabeth Yura. I also go by Liz, and I'm the director of the Rules Division at the Air District. And then I have here Purnima. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Purnima Dixit. I am Senior Air Quality Engineer at the Rules and Strategic Policy Division at the Air District.
We'll be here today going over some information about what our division does at the Air District and giving you a little background, and then are available to answer any questions you may have.
Sorry, guys.
Allison, I also sent you the link to the slides in the chat if you
Thank
if
you.
you need it. Yeah, no worries.
Oh, you know what? I just remembered where I put that handy link. Okay, sorry about that. Which slide number is it?
We are at slide 21.
Thank you. Apologies. Can everybody see? I can also put this on slideshow.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, we've done that.
All right, thank you, Allison. Okay, so as I introduced myself, I am a rule developer at the Rules and Strategic Policy Division at the Air District. My basic objective for today's presentation is to give you all an understanding of what the Rules and Strategic Policy Division does. Also give you a very brief overview of the rule development process. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is the purpose of the Rules and Strategic Policy Division? So it is a division as one of the many divisions within the Air District. We are a group of 11 staff, including management, And our main job is to propose new and amended regulations to bring them into the Air District's Board of Directors for adoption. If a rule is adopted if an amendment is passed, then this will be implemented and enforced with the partnership of other internal groups in the Air District. Next slide. So the whole preface for rule making comes from the air quality regulations. What are air quality regulations? Air quality regulations are basically requirements that limit the extent of emissions from stationary and or mobile sources that contribute to air pollution. Air quality regulations are aimed at improving air quality and the local environment. Our division exists to create and modify rules for the sources of pollution that we have the authority to regulate. Next slide. So who writes air quality regulations? As you can see from this diagram, the air pollution regulations are complex. As an air district, we do not regulate everything. There are rules at various levels of government, including the federal and state level. And then there are our rules, the local rules from the air districts. So a takeaway from the slide that you see would be that there is some overlap between the federal, state, and local authorities, but generally state authorities tend to regulate mobile sources and the air districts mainly regulate stationary sources. Next slide. So what prompts the initiative to develop rules, or why do we do this? Rulemaking process is initiated due to various requirements, historically through federal mandates like the Clean Air Act and statutory mandates from the state. The process can also be prompted due to specific issues faced by the communities that require the air district to promulgate and amend rules that would address those issues. Like, for example, the metal recycling emissions rule and the odor issues are an effort that are recently come into play because of the issues identified in the West Oakland region due to a facility that is emitting fugitive emissions from these types of facilities. And recently in the recent days, we have statutory mechanisms and community partnerships that are at play, like the AB 617 BART schedule, community knowledge and concerns that have propelled rulemaking, and specifically the community emission reduction plans for the AB 617 communities. Next slide. So here is a schematic of the rule development process. Basically, how it happens in the beginning would be we evaluate the potential for a new rule or new rule amendment. Then we develop concepts. We also take into consideration technical needs and viability, and we start to engage with relevant stakeholders that should be part of the conversation, which can include convening expert work groups and holding stakeholder meetings. The next steps would be actually to draft regulatory language and further engage with affected community. We consult the public and host workshops, solicit feedback, and analyze environmental and socioeconomic impacts. And with the engagement and feedback that occurs, there is opportunity to incorporate changes and update the draft language as needed, and moving forward into the final steps of the process. So soon after public engagement process, there is an opportunity for the public to tell us if they want anything changed, and that's when we make those changes and then move into the final stages, which include the release of the proposed regulatory language and the accompanying staff report. The staff report contains discussions of the proposed rule, including those environmental and socioeconomic analyses that were performed. There are also responses to the comments received. All the documents and reports are put together in anticipation of a board hearing, which is the very last step, as you can see in the diagram. At the public board hearing, there's another opportunity for public comments, and ultimately, if it is agreed upon, the board considers the rule for adoption. Next slide. So this is an informational page where the public can use the tools that we have on our website to understand what we do. How you can find us would be at www.bacmid.gov, rules and compliance and current rules. This gives you a complete repository of all the current rules and adopted rules in one place. There's a description of the rule. You can navigate and look at what the rule is, when it was adopted, if there were amendments to it, if there's staff reports, and all of it is in one place. And then we also highly recommend that you get on our email subscription system, wherein basically the emails give you a updated activity of what's happening at the rule development section, so that you can stay up to date with all of the rules and the related activities at the Air District. Next slide. So some of the current rules, as an example, that we are currently undertaking and the efforts to get these rules underway. Some of these are the Rule 88, refinery wastewater, which is prompted by the AB 617 BARC schedule, and Rule 818, Rule 1118, Rules 6.1 and 6.6 targeting fugitive dust, and as I said, 6.4, which is a metal recycling and shredding operation. The staff is looking at amending this rule because of the recent incidents and issues reported at the West Oakland community. And the asterisk here shows that specifically 6.1, 6.6, and 6.4 are an effort for the West Oakland Community Action Plan measure, which gives you an idea that the staff actually can start a rulemaking process prompted by a community emission reduction plan measure. Next slide. And with that, I conclude this section. And if you have any questions, Elizabeth and I are here to address them. Thank you.
Alison, do you want to screen share the Jamboard?
So, Masim, on this activity, will we have somebody typing it in for people, or do they have to type it in themselves?
I think we can have both, right? If folks want to type in themselves, they can do so. And Alison can also help us type things into the Jamboard.
Okay, thank you.
All right, does anyone have any questions? We don't have a lot of time left in this rotation. Would encourage folks to either voice their questions or put notes in the Jamboard.
So, Andrea, could we get you to give us some feedback? Because we want to get our community members. This is our community's time and opportunity to have your voice heard, and they have to listen. They have to listen to us. So don't be, everybody had the courage to make bold statements if that's what you choose to do.
I guess I would ask, how long is the process from the time that you decide that a rule is going to be enforced or amended to go through the chart that you showed us?
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I should have mentioned. As you just saw, rule development is a very involved and comprehensive process. It could take a minimum of at least a year for the rule to come to the board for final adoption, because we are very thorough with all of the analyses and stakeholder meetings, workshops, edits, and receiving comments and addressing them. It could take a minimum of a year.
And so for my fellow CSC members, I'm here right now with Dr. Fine and the powers that be. And they are including us in every aspect of the rule-making, policy-making procedures. And it's up to us to know what we feel like needs to be changed in order for it to work better for us. So anybody who has some suggestions, serve them up. I see Rena's hand up. Oh, hold on. Go ahead, Andrea.
I will say that on the toxic tour, they mentioned that there was some rules in place, but that they only moved forward. And so there's legacy agencies that are still doing things the old way and doing a lot of pollution. So how does the rule department deal with that?
That's a question for the rule department to answer. So let's hear what you got to say.
Do you want me to take that one, Purnima?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I want to make sure I heard the question correctly. So it's mentioned on the toxic tour that there were talks about some legacy businesses grandfathered in and they continue to pollute. A lot of that has to do with permitting and specifying on a permit for a facility what levels of pollution are allowed. Some of that we can control versus with rulemaking. If we do feel that there are technologies out there that could reduce a source of pollution at a facility, that's something we would definitely want to look at and write new rules or amend old rules to make sure that they're keeping up with technology, because technology can move pretty fast, right? And when the rule was written, they may have required the best technology at the time, but there could be new stuff. And so we always want to be looking at the sources and if what's on them is the best available, and if not, making sure that we write rules to require that.
Yeah, this is Esther. I had a question around that answer. So, you know, being at CBE and knowing that we have to monitor the air district, I'm just wondering what steps do you actually take to check that? Like, how is the process of checking if it is needed to retest or to use different equipment? Because it's a lot of facilities out here breaking rules, and we don't see the air district knocking at their door or always testing or retesting.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do also want to acknowledge that Marina has her hand up too. And so I want to make sure too that we can get her question in and record it as well. So Esther, do you mind if I take a quick pause there and have Marina ask her question?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Marina?
Mi pregunta es esta,
My
¿verdad?
question is this. What we're seeing right now about the rules, the refineries, the removal of toxics, this is at city level or district or state, because we know that these rules exist, but I would like to know that if there's like a graph, they could show it to me, because I want to see if we're passing these tests here in Oakland. Thank you.
All right, I can try and run through both questions really quickly. Esther, to your question, as far as how do we keep track of all the sources, and what can we do to make sure that we are keeping up with technology? It's hard. I'm not going to say that we are all the time know exactly what technologies are out there and what's coming online to make sure that we get every source immediately, but we do a lot of work with the California Air Resources Board, but then also the other air districts, as there are air districts for all of California. We do look a lot to our counterparts to see what types of rules they're doing, to see if they're looking at new technologies. We like to, do our research, right? If we hear a community concern about a certain source, that's a lot of times when we will start looking at, okay, well, what is going on with this facility? What type of controls do they have on? We'll talk to our engineering division that does the permits to say, hey, have you seen other sources in this category that are similar facilities that have put on, new controls that are different types of things that we could require? So, a lot of times too, if we're, talking about looking at just research papers and what type of technologies are out there, we like to follow that as well. So there's not just one avenue we look at to figure out if a source has a new type of equipment we can put on, but it's something that we try to depend on our counterparts in the agency, others, regulators throughout the state and the country, and also the community to let us know that, hey, it's time to look at this source again to see if we could do better. To Marina's question on the refineries are very complicated from the perspective of they have rules from the federal EPA, from the state, and from the local air district. If you're talking about the different ships that also come, like the tanker ships, they also are under Coast Guard regulation as well. So I would say refineries have, I think, some of the widest variety of entities that regulate them. And so I admit it is not straightforward there. But if it's something where folks are interested in specific sources in East Oakland and what entities have what authority over them, that is definitely something we'd like to work with y'all on so that we can come up with a diagram or some sort of chart to make it at least a little bit more clear in what can be, as Purnima showed in the slide with all of the crisscrosses pointing to all the different entities, can be a fairly complicated landscape sometimes.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing so much. Folks, appreciate all your questions here. We'll take a very short, about a minute break as our next presenter gets up and ready to roll. So just take a moment, catch your breath, and then we'll get started shortly.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I'm going to move you, Purnima and Elizabeth, to a different breakout room.
Okay. Masamar, am I on the right slide? And can you see it?
Yes, I can see the slide. And do we have Winnie and Kate here?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I have the wrong slides.
Yeah. We are M&M.
There we go.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Winnie. I'm an air quality engineer in the source test section, and I'm presenting here with Kate Hogue, who is an assistant manager in the air quality analysis section in the M&M division. Next slide. All right, so first I want to start off talking about an emissions pathway of how our air quality originates from emissions and how the steps it takes to impact our health. So first of all, our emissions start with pollutants, which come from industry. These are point sources, as well as mobile sources such as vehicles and trains and other modes of transportation. So these emissions impact our ambient concentrations. And when I say ambient concentrations, I'm talking about where we're breathing on a day-to-day basis. And if you live in an area that is closer in proximity to some of these sources, such as freeways or large industries, you can be exposed to higher levels of air pollutants. And in turn, you may experience certain health effects that are associated with high levels of air pollutants. So in M&M, our division focuses on the first two steps of this pathway in terms of determining what our emissions are, as well as collecting ambient data and understanding what is in our air on a daily basis. Next slide. So next, I'm going to talk about the 6 sections that comprise the M&M division. The first section, can you click next? I'm going to talk about the source test section first. I'm a source test engineer, and one of our main focuses is to test stack emissions. And when I say stack emissions, I'm talking about what's coming out of a facility before it enters our air. So we are testing basically at the tailpipe of a large industrial facility. So another part of what we do is review source test reports. Since we're not able to test at all the facilities in the Bay Area's jurisdiction, many of the facilities are tested by third-party contractors, and we review their source test reports that are sent to our division. And in addition, we also participate in special projects that require a source test knowledge. Next. Air monitoring operations. This section focuses on operating and maintaining long-term air monitoring stations throughout the Bay Area. There is one located in East Oakland, and these stations provide public real-time information, and much of the data is used to track trends in air pollution, as well as inform emission reduction strategies. Next. Air monitoring special projects and technology. This section is more research focused, and they operate a mobile vehicle that is specialized, and they can go to different neighborhoods and assess air pollution on a community scale. So it differs from air monitoring in that this section can assess special projects at specific communities. Next. So the first 3 sections focus on data collection. The next 3 sections I'm going to talk about have an emphasis on analysis and interpretation of air monitoring data. So this section, meteorology and quality assurance, they are more analytical, and they also forecast air quality for air now. They send out spare the air alerts, and they also forecast wildfire smoke events. They also audit monitoring stations in the air monitoring operations section, and they also validate air monitoring data to ensure that all the data that we're publishing online meets certain criteria. Next. Our laboratory is an analytical chemistry laboratory, and if we need more information about air quality and some of its components, for example, if you wanted to know if there's certain air toxics in our air, we would send our air quality samples to the lab to determine what is in our air specifically. Next. The ambient air quality analysis section is our more public-facing section. They design region-wide community-scale air monitoring projects. They analyze, interpret data. They track long-term air quality trends and assess local-scale impacts. They also provide technical support and they consult, and they also contract with the Bay Air Center. Okay, next. These are some of the permitted sources in the Bay Area. As a source test engineer, I've been to many of these sources and we have done testing at a number of these sources. The most relevant would probably be the gasoline dispensing facilities, because these are gas stations that we all go to, we all pump gas. And basically, we will go there to test to make sure things are leak-free and making sure you're not breathing any of these nasty gasoline vapors. Okay, next slide. So where does the data go? It's used to support various air district programs throughout the air district, including AB 617, CNE, engineering, and emissions inventory. We also publish the data online, so it's readily available. It's also used to assist health research studies, and it's also used to consult with outside agencies like community groups. Next. Just to reiterate, what can my division bring to the CERP? In one word, I would say data. We provide data. We collect a lot of the data and we analyze it and interpret it. And I think that's our main contribution to the CERP. And I think we want to open it up for discussion now. Thanks. Are there any questions about M&M? Or if you want me to elaborate on anything, I'm happy to do that also.
So who we got in this room who has something to say? Because we talk about community not being heard. So here's your opportunity to be heard. Susan, you got something to say about this category? We can't hear you. You muted. Still muted. Okay, so one of the things I can say about this is that changes are being made, you guys. And I know this to be true because it's been mandated that these changes be made. And so if we have issues with the way this process is working, then we need to make sure that we let them know where the holes are. It's up to us to define equity, and we want equity in this process. So one of the things I've suggested here is that we be involved in every step of the process, that there be an EJ presence in every step of community of compliance and enforcement. So what we're actually doing, you guys, is making policy, changing what hasn't been working and make it work for us. Now, somebody tell us what'll work for us in your mind. Andrea?
Yeah, do you guys have anything on the permitted sources slide? Do you have something that puts these in some type of ranking for East Oakland that could show us what the main focus is?
We have
Andrea, I think a great place to find answers to that is to look at the emissions inventory presentation we had at the August meeting. And I believe we put that link in the chat. But I didn't mean to speak over Winnie or Kate if you have anything to add.
No, that's a great point. I Thanks, Allison. And I think it's a really interesting question. And I think there's a lot of pieces of information that go to answer it, and there is no right answer. I think the information that we get from you all as people that are living in the community is one piece of information about that, because we can't always have all of the data that we'd like, either for emissions or air pollution levels for monitoring or modeling. So I think we can rank them by emissions, and that kind of tells us how much things are polluting. But as emissions move through the air, they affect different parts of the community differently. Emissions that get emitted high up might get spread out and are more diffuse, whereas a smaller source, if it's right next to where people are living, can actually have a larger felt impact. And then you have differences for different pollutants as well. So some sources emit more particulate matter, for example, where others might emit more benzene or air toxics and things like that. I think one reason why Winnie mentioned gas stations specifically are that they actually are a larger source in some ways in terms of felt impact than people might realize, because they're so common, and throughout our neighborhoods they often tend to be very close to where people live, and if they aren't operated according to regulations, they can actually emit quite a bit of things like benzene or other things. So that's why we check kind of all of them. But it's really tricky to have one ranking, since there's so many factors that go into how people experience impacts from the different facilities or sources of pollution.
Yeah, I think yeah, I would even add to the list, because different industries could be getting more infractions than other industries, and some industries may be more known for trying to get around the policies and stuff. That would also impact the ranking of what we should prioritize.
Yes, definitely. That's a big one as well.
Yeah, so my question is around the data and the measurable, information that you receive. I'm wondering how that affects the permitting because of the cumulative impacts that a new source would have on the area, as you spoke to one facility, depending on where it is and how much pollution and emissions that you receive. But then next to it, through permitting, is another source that is going to impact the community, but is it measured collectively to see the full impact on the community and what it gets? Because we have had been told from the air district that when they permit, they're sourcing just what that facility states, not what is near that state or that neighborhood, because that's the part. We can have all the data, but how is it being used to prevent the community being polluted? And another part of that too is that the history of BACMed is permitting and then also regulating. And it's confusing on how a permitted body can also regulate at the same time, because if you take care of that in the front side of it, then we would not be polluted, especially here in East Oakland, and have these high cases, as we just use as an example when we say this. But it's a lot of people that's on the steering committee that breathe that air and live in those areas, and they may not have the actual questions right now, but they are being impacted. And so I feel that the questions from this steering committee should still be able to go to these departments later on. And I apologize if that was already said that that would happen, but that's a suggestion if it's not.
Yeah, I see Rose hand has popped up and Rose has not spoken. So go ahead, Rose.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Rose. I work with a local environmental organization, and we do local, at least right now, we're working on a project that's citing for localized air monitoring to monitor point sources that may not be captured from larger regulatory sites. And my question to M&M is how you take into account local air monitoring networks that aren't really pooled together. That's kind of a big critique of air monitoring data, is that they all exist in different places. And so it's hard to analyze it all together. And I'm kind of curious if there's anything on the horizon at the Air District that takes into account these smaller point sources, because looking at the regulatory monitors across the Bay Area, the air is improving over time. But then you look at the very small local areas, small neighborhoods, block by block, and that is not the case, as Esther brought up.
Yeah, those are both great questions. And, Esther, I want to lift up what we heard from you and note that that's been a problem with how our kind of Clean Air Act way of regulating air pollution has been implemented. And I think it's an area that's right for policy change. And hopefully I'm excited to hear kind of how the steering committee talks about that in the future. I think there are some ideas about how to take cumulative impacts into account during permitting. And the question about kind of smaller sources that still have big local impacts and that kind of go under characterized is a big shift that I think the Air District acknowledges is one of the needs if we're really trying to make those changes that kind of Charles alluded to earlier about pivoting to really lift up community voices and advance environmental justice. So we do have some different projects on the horizon that we want to start doing in coordination or conversation with community, and as far as how do we help compile or make different types of data sets for air monitoring more available, and how do we use that to again feed into all of the ways that the Air District can regulate sources, provide incentives to reduce emissions for small businesses, or other ways to help get at those things that have chronically kind of fallen through the cracks of how we do things.
Thank you, Katie. And one of the other things that I wanted to say is that there needs to be more surface source testing. And when it comes to community, our air monitoring data has not been accepted. And we want to make sure that citizen science, community science is more accepted within BACMA's operating procedures, because that's where we really get our power from, being able to compile the data in our areas and then be able to say, hey, this is what we found, we need you to address this. And so that's what we're doing right here with this CERP. We're setting those kinds of priorities, you guys. Marina?
Sí, tengo una pregunta, ¿verdad?
Yes, I have a question. My question is, are you monitoring the chlorine that's in our environment because chlorine affects us too. Are you monitoring that when there are fires, wildfires? How do you describe, how do you define, how do you classify it? Because we know when there are the fires, those huge fires, that's when there are more pollutants. It's affecting our lungs, our asthma, our allergies. How do you monitor when those fires take place, the wildfires? Thank you. That's it.
I think folks had to move over to their next rotation, Marina, but I'm hoping that Allison was able to take down your questions. Thank you so much.
And so we will be following up with everybody's questions. So if you want to, you can check back in up with us. And then with Allison, where are those answers at? And she'll get them for us. And so Masa, now we are waiting for.
We are waiting for Elmira, Derek, and Paul from compliance and enforcement.
So anybody in the room right now, do you have any questions that you have for compliance and enforcement before they show up? Because one of the things is that you can complain about something, but how do you know something is being done? And how many times do you have to complain? So how do we follow up on the complaints we make? You know, so those are some, how do we track it and then say to their bosses, hey, you're not doing anything about this. And we tired of it. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop equity within the process. So anybody could think of ways that we can be involved to make it more equitable for us, more balanced for us, and throw them questions out there.
Charles.
Yes.
This is Miss Cecilia speaking right now.
Oh, I know who you are.
Okay. I just wanted to say that we should put a timeline on every entity that they are trying to do. So we'll know just how far advanced have they got on each entity. Because we shouldn't have to, we should know how far down the line have they gotten with each rule, policy, or entity.
I love hearing that, Ms. Cecilia, because that's what we are trying to get in place. A process that allows for us as CERPs, for us as CAC members, to be able to overview the process and point the holes in the system and be able to get action when action hasn't been taken.
Yes, because we're going to have equity. That's very important because in some areas of Oakland, everything get done immediately. It's no such thing as waiting. They go ahead and do it. But they come here in the Far East area, they take their time doing everything. And that's why we have so much sickness going on right now, because I'm sick myself.
Oh, I hope you get better.
It's something else because really the air quality is not good at all. Not good at all.
Okay, so, thank you for telling us that, Ms. Cecilia. And I think we have the appropriate BACMed staff for our overview on compliance.
Yeah, thank you, Charles. Elmira, are you here?
Hi, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. My internet is playing games with me tonight.
No worries.
I'm here now. Thank you. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Almira Van, and I work in the Compliance and Enforcement Division in the Operations Group, and I'll be giving you an overview of the division tonight. Next slide, please. So the Compliance and Enforcement Division, or C&E, is comprised of field and operations staff that ensure sources and facilities are in compliance with applicable air district, state, federal regulations, as well as permit requirements. The division aims to inspect and verify compliance for approximately 24,000 stationary permitted sources across the Bay Area through our robust inspection and enforcement programs. In addition to inspections, C&E staff also investigate air quality complaints received from the community. And through the complaint investigation process, C&E help to address community air quality concerns and reduce emissions at the local level. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Compliance Enforcement Program has 4 programs that include the compliance and verification inspections, conducting audits and investigations, investigating air quality complaints, responding to incidents, taking enforcement actions, and providing compliance assistance. And these core programs are all interrelated, and they all work together to support the goals of the division and the district. In the following slides, I'll walk you through each of these core programs. So during compliance verification inspections, our inspection staff perform unannounced inspections at all permitted and sometimes unpermitted sources to verify compliance with air district, state, and federal regulations, as well as permit conditions, which are specific to each facility. And this includes physically inspecting equipment to look for signs of emissions and odors, as well as reviewing records. And all inspection observations are documented in detail. Inspection staff also regularly investigate reportable compliance activities, and these are typically associated with monitors that monitor excess emissions. And staff also conduct investigations relating to flaring events and Title V deviations. And Title V facilities are any facility that emits greater than 100 tons per year of a criteria pollutant. Through the inspection and investigation activities, inspection staff also identify any source-specific issues or concerns. If a violation is discovered, the inspection staff will document the violation and work with the facility to resolve the issue and ensure that corrective actions are taken in a timely manner. Next slide, please. Staff also conduct field investigations and audits that are beyond the normal day-to-day inspection work. Investigations may involve further data analysis and review of monitoring equipment or specific operations at the facility that could be associated with an instance of noncompliance. Within our division, we have a field operations group. They do a more in-depth look at investigations when warranted and cover a broader range of data review while also looking at engineering specification, process flow diagrams, and record keeping to ensure facilities are operating in compliance. Next slide, please. So our air quality complaint program this allows the public to inform us of any community concerns or potential compliance issues that may require additional investigation and follow-up by our staff. So the public can submit a complaint in 2 different ways, either online through the website as listed on the slide, or through our 1-800-334-ODOR phone number. And complaints can be filed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and this includes weekends and holidays. Outside of normal business hours, we have staff who are on call to respond to major incidents. We do understand there may be hesitancy by the community to file a complaint due to concerns regarding confidentiality. We do take confidentiality very seriously, and we do not share complainant information. Information such as complainant name, address, phone number are only used to aid in the process of investigation of the complaint that was filed. So the common types of complaints we receive are odors, dust, smoke, particulates, asbestos, complaints about gas stations and wood smoke. Our inspection staff fully investigate each complaint received and take appropriate enforcement actions if there are any violations discovered. We also assess the magnitude of impact caused by the emission source and determine whether each complaint is confirmed or unconfirmed. We do sometimes receive complaints that are outside of our jurisdiction. In those cases, we refer those out to the appropriate agency. Next slide, please. As y'all know, we do see major air quality, air pollution events that in the Bay Area as a result of maybe a fire or a big emission release from manufacturing or flaring from refineries. Although we are not first responders, we do have staff available on call to respond to these incidents, including holidays, weekends, and after business hours. When responding to incidents, the primary responsibility of the on-call staff is to document community impacts, respond to complaints, and provide support to public safety agencies as needed. Our field staff will conduct a thorough investigation to determine the root cause of the incident. So this includes reviewing operational processes and equipment that may be permitted with the Air District, and also reviewing data and record keeping. If there is a shelter in place, we work closely with other agencies, such as the local fire department, to evaluate the magnitude of the impacts and also document all the findings and take necessary enforcement action. Next slide, please. So this slide highlights the possible enforcement actions following inspection or complaint investigation. During the course of investigation or inspection, if a source is discovered to be out of compliance, a notice of violation would be issued. A notice of violation could be issued if Air District, state, or federal regulation is violated. There was a violation of the facility's permit, or if there was a public nuisance. For minor violations, typically administrative offenses, a notice of comply will be issued. Notice to comply is essentially a fix a ticket to allow the facility to quickly remedy the situation. We also work closely with our legal division on enforcement cases and compliance strategies. For chronic violators, for example, our legal division may take steps to issue an order of abatement, which requires a facility that is operating out of compliance to take specific actions and steps to move towards compliance or shut down its operations. Lastly, we also work with legal and our hearing board when there are variance requests that come in and require review and evaluation. Next slide, please. So how can CNE help with CERP development? So one approach would be to continue to work with the CSC to establish areas of concern within East Oakland. CNE can also review enforcement data and identify where there are facilities that may have specific compliance issues. And once those areas of concern may be identified, CNE can conduct targeted inspections and investigations at facilities or sources identified within the area of concern. We can also work closely with other divisions within the district and work collaboratively to develop district strategies to help resolve compliance concerns. And so this work may involve coordination and planning with other divisions such as rules, engineering, meteorology and measurements. Next slide, please. So we do have our assigned inspector here tonight, Derek Pastorino, and also the field supervisor of the area, Paul Grazzini, here. They can do a quick introduction.
Good evening, everybody. Derek, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Hey, everybody. My name is Derek Pastorino. I'm the assigned inspector for East Oakland. If you guys have complaints, they'll probably be sent to me. So yeah, nice to meet you guys.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Paul Grazzini, the area supervisor for the Oakland area. Also have the surrounding area, everything from El Sobrante down to Milpitas and out to the Tri-Valley. But that said, outside of a few large facilities outside of Oakland, Oakland is my main focus with my assignment. So between myself, Derek, the other inspectors I have in the group, we will do what we can to respond to your complaints, to improve the air quality in your area. So if you have any questions, please be more than happy to answer them.
So, I'm gonna be y'all either best friend or worst enemy. I'm just letting you know that I have to stand up for the community and the complaints that they have, and I'm gonna be there to make sure that they being followed through. That's what they chose me for. But we have fun doing it.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I actually look forward to meeting you in person.
So right now, I know we have to have some questions for this group, because these are the ones who are in charge of making sure that stuff get fixed. And so, Andrea, give them a hard question. Don't throw them no softballs.
Yeah, this one is kind of an easy one, sorry. I wanted, like, how many inspectors are dedicated to East Oakland?
Right now, Derek is dedicated to East Oakland. I have an inspector that covers West Oakland, and I have a total of approximately 5 in my region. If the need arises, I can pull inspectors from another region, from an adjoining area. But staffing is something we are working on right now.
And how many, so there's 24,000 sources in the Bay Area, but how many sources is one person expected to inspect?
So in the olden days, sorry, I don't mean that to sound that way that sounds. The goal was that every inspector would inspect the facilities in their area once a year. That's not necessarily, that was at a time when there were a lot of sources that weren't permitted then that are permitted now, things like backup generators and the such. So that's not the go-to plan anymore. The go-to plan is that every major facility, this would be a Title V or a large facility or any facility of concern. It's our goal that we want to inspect, do a compliance inspection, which means we look at everything from tip to tail, look at all the permit conditions, all the state and federal regulations that pertain to air quality. We want to get into those facilities once per year. And that's what I drive my inspectors to do for those major facilities. As it works out with the major facilities, the inspectors tend to be there a little bit more often than that, not always doing a complete tip to tail inspection. If it's in response to a complaint or if they filed an emissions release report, reportable compliance activity with us, we'll go in and just investigate what's pertinent to that situation at that time. So I hope that kind of gets to what you
So how many are large facilities in our area?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, because off the top of my head, I say I'm afraid to answer that, because if I tell you it's like a dozen, I might fall short there. You know, it's enough to keep Derek busy all year, for sure. I can come back. That can be a follow-up though, if you want to know the Title V major facilities and or the number of, I would
be curious to know both numbers, the number of total facilities in our area and then the number of ones that are being inspected once a year.
Okay. That's something we can come back to the committee with, for sure.
And then I guess my other question was about the verification slide. Is this information available to the public?
That's an Elmira.
Documented violations.
Oh, Documented violations are now available to the public via our website. I know we have a web page that is starting to list our violations out. And I heard from another group that you guys want more information that we can than just a violation was issued to a facility. And I can take that information back, but that is now being made available. There was another question I saw pop up too.
We just dropped the link to the NOV search portal into the chat.
I saw a question about how many inspectors is appropriate for East Oakland. I'm a supervisor, so my answer is always going to be more. You know, I want as many as possible. What's appropriate? You know, I want to be able to get into every facility once a year. You know, if that takes 3 inspectors to do it, then I'd love to have 3 inspectors to be able to do that. But it's also a tangible number in that it depends on what's happening in East Oakland and what compliance looks like for us. The more compliance issues we're having, the more facilities that we have to inspect, then the more inspectors we're going to need. This is one of my concerns. Cannabis came up in another group, and if we start having to regulate different aspects of the cannabis industry and that industry explodes in Oakland, as I kind of think it has, then that creates a demand for more staff. So I hope I'm getting to some of these answers, and I know I'm not giving you everything you want to hear, but I just want to be honest with everybody.
No,
Sharon, Charles, go for it.
yeah, I just wanted to thank you for the answers that you were able to give, and that we will be bringing compliance and enforcement back as many times as needed, because for us, and another thing we also need to do, we need to find out how many complaints does it take? You know, kind of like the how many licks do it take to get to the center? How many complaints do it take before we get some action? If we're reporting on a facility, does the organization complaints count as the whole organization, or as one person? And these are the things, these are just some of the other things we need to know in order to be clear on how this process is working for us.
Right.
Go ahead.
And how long does that process take too? The duration of the whole process.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Okay. Well, when it comes to timelines, and I'll be candid in this answer, you know, you'll see or hear from an inspector fairly quickly, hopefully. If not, you can call me. But the resolution, right? It's not just hearing from the inspector, it's what happens after, right? That resolution, I'm just going to acknowledge in front of everybody here, that resolution can often take a lot longer than everybody wants it to take. So it's my goal as a supervisor to try and resolve issues as quickly as possible. I like to resolve things quickly. I don't like things to sit for long periods of time, because people get lazy and lackadaisical and all that kind of stuff. We'll do what we can, and we'll do what we can to improve the process. What I will tell you is your feedback is appreciated, good and bad, you know. We'll do what we can. Esther, you still have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I did. I think you just answered it, because I was going to talk about what do you do after the complaint, and I heard you say the truth of how long it takes. And just wanted to acknowledge that. Yeah, it does take a long time, and that's why we keep these fights going and keep community involved and let them know, you know, the history and whatnot. And I appreciate y'all being here and sharing with the group what y'all divisions do.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And another thing, we would like to have a presentation on how us as community members can make complaints and track them and follow up on them on our own.
Okay.
Because from my understanding, we can make a bunch of complaints, but it won't mean anything if it's not recognized as a priority.
Right.
And so is it true that 10 complaints would get some action?
That would be my expectation. What comes into play, and I'm not trying to complicate, I'm trying to just be honest. What comes into play is where the complaint investigation takes us. You know, if it's an odor complaint, did we smell the odor and trace it? Now, a lot of cases, what I already, and I'm not presupposing to understand the situation, but what I already know is that we'll respond and you won't hear anything, or we'll respond and you won't hear of any action taken. My goal, my group's goal, when we get a group of complaints, when we know that there's a chronic situation, which is a public nuisance situation, is to make the public nuisance happen. And so, you know, we do respond to every complaint as it's received. There's no minimum number. Sorry, I just got a message from it. There's no minimum number. Action can happen. A public nuisance can literally happen with one complaint. It just depends on the situation. A good example would be the recent fire at Schnitzer. Okay. But other situations, there may be more complaints that come into play. There's no steadfast number, but when a complaint does come in, I think the onus is on us at the Air District, my inspectors, to figure out what's going on, and if there's an issue there, to issue the violation notice. So we do our best to do that, and we will see what we can do. I maybe sidestepped a little bit of that question, but I promise you we'll work.
Yeah, you did.
I am sorry.
Don't worry, we're gonna get you.
May I ask one question, please? I just want to ask one question. I would like to know, is there any money or grants involved with getting this work done, Paul?
As far as complaint investigations?
No, I'm thinking as far as getting this emission pollution, this work done here in East Oakland. Is there any money or grants involved in this?
That's more, we have a whole division that works on grants. I know for certain programs there is grant money available. I don't know the specific programs, unfortunately, because I don't work in that division and I don't deal with grants. If I knew, I would tell you.
Yeah, because most time it's money involved too in getting a lot of things done.
For facilities that could change out, say, polluting equipment, say a generator for a battery backup. I'm making this up entirely, but you know, there may be grant monies that could take care of that. But and it looks like I'm getting a wrap-up signal.
Okay.
I will say,
thank you very much.
Feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just need clarification about, it seems like the money going to the polluters and not the community.
Oh, for grants, that's a whole different, it's a different thing than violations.
Yeah, actually, that's good that that conversation came up because it segues into how we are getting some money for it. So I want to pass that off to which one of our BACMA staff will be doing that? Anish?
Carissa.
Anish or Carissa, which one, every one of y'all want to take over?
Yeah, if I could get the next slide. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anish Rana, and the presentations from the last section ran over a bit, so we added some extra time to allow for a few more questions. But to make sure that we get you all out on time and we have time for the EJ announcements, we're not going to cover a few of the upcoming slides we were going to cover during the portion of the meeting. What I did want to do was provide you a quick update on the community organizing grant program the Air District launched to support the East Oakland Community Mapping Project that we covered at the last meeting, and then we can move on to the EJ announcements. But at the last steering committee, I shared that the Air District was providing grants of up to $7,500 to eligible nonprofit organizations to conduct outreach for community mapping project. The purpose of the project is to identify air pollution concerns and community assets in East Oakland to support the CERP. There was a total of 30,000 available. It was a very competitive process, and we received 8 really strong proposals. The 4 organizations that were selected for award were East Oakland Collective, Higher Ground Neighborhood Development Corp., Lifers Leaving a Legacy, and Recess Fund, Inc. And as of today, their projects are underway and will run until October 19th. And as part of their grant agreement, they will attend the steering committee meeting in November to help summarize the data that we collect through the map. We were planning to do a tutorial or a demonstration of the mapping tool for you all, but in the interest of time, I will follow up after this meeting with an email invitation to CSE members that are interested in receiving that tutorial, and also wanted to let the steering committee know that we will have an additional 2 hours of stipends available to you if you choose or want to get into the map and add information to it. And so we're really excited about this opportunity to bring the broader East Oakland community into this process. And we hope that you also, we want to encourage you all to get in there and contribute as well. And so with that, briefly, are there any questions?
I have a question. How come there wasn't more money for more grants to be issued?
Based on the budget that we had, that was the amount of money that we were able to contribute to this program.
And with those 8 strong proposals, can we get East Oakland CERP staff to advocate for more funding, since you had such 8 strong candidates, and we don't want to turn anybody away if we don't have to? Because our job is to include community, and if we don't have enough money to include them, that means they're still excluded.
I mean, are you, is your suggestion so that they could participate in this round of funding?
Not this particular round, but to make sure that we have more funding, since we already recognized there were 8 strong proposals. That means we should at least have 60,000 in there. So could we depend on you guys to advocate more for community inclusion in efforts like this?
Sure, yeah. I think, yeah, with this next budget for this next coming year, I mean, we have built in some extra funding for added stipends for CSC members to do some work around this, and also too for their work on for any kind of extra ad hoc or outreach needs that arise. But we can also take this back to advocate certainly for additional funding for community engagement purposes.
I had a question, Anish. Is there a way that next time on the next round of funding that they can include people who don't have 501c3s, who may be like CSC members who want to engage and they want to participate or do it on their own merit? Is there a way that they can do that or be inclusive, like with an MOU or something of that sort?
Yeah, we can definitely look into that. I think that was the intention with the extra 2 hours of stipends that are available to the steering committee members. But for community outreach, beyond that, yes, we can look into that and consider that for future.
Good. Thank you, Anish.
So that leads us to our East Oakland environmental justice announcements and updates. And I would like to ask if Miss Margaret is happens to be on our call. Can anybody confirm yes or no?
Yes, Charles, Miss Margaret is not here yet. So perhaps we can move on to the next announcement and wait if she's able to join.
Okay, so let me first of all say, fellow CSC members, that I am here on retreat with the CAC. And in this retreat, I'm getting a chance to learn how powerful our voices really are. And we were granted a grant out of this mapping project. And I would like for any CSC members who would like to participate in any kind of way with the planning or the going on of our block party, that our first annual East Oakland Environmental Awareness and Empowerment Block Party. It will be held in East Oakland, around 85th Casa Paranga, and anybody who wants to participate in helping the planning or anything else, please join in. And so our next update will be by?
I think we have Marika who wants to share about the CBE Toxic Tour.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, just wanted to share about the CBE Toxic Tour that happened on August 19th. It was amazing, eye-opening, educational, and I just wish the entire CERP was there. I think everybody that's on here should have been in the Toxic Tour, because you really get to see who the polluters are, and not even all of them, just some of them. Otherwise, it'll be literally an all-day event. There's so many polluters in East Oakland that a lot of people are not even aware of. If you get a chance to go on the next Toxic Tour, which will be for community, I highly recommend it. This Toxic Tour was for us, and I was shocked to see not so few of us there. And I think there was supposed to be an announcement at the last meeting, but we ran out of time or something like that. So maybe a lot of people didn't know or hadn't read the email. And to me, that is tragic. But ask our what am I trying to say? Our co-chairs when the next one's going to be, because this is information you need. You need to see it with your own eyes and experience it, because so many of us are going through life kind of knowing something's happening, but it's just really eye-opening when you see, oh, from there, from this place right here, and how close homes are to these places is really eye-opening. And when you think about redlining and who lives in these areas, you just know it's not by mistake. It's not by mistake that these polluters are not in different areas. It was a great experience, educational, and I think everybody needs to attend. It's definitely worth your time. And I see in the chat, there's information about the next tour. So definitely write that down in your calendar now and plan to be there. All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Esther, did you also want to share about the next toxic tour and other announcements?
Yeah, so the next toxic tour is October 28th. We're asking people to be there at 10:30. I'll send out information with a link to sign up. We also are doing September 20th, emergency backpack giveaway. We would like to have those backpacks go to new members. We have air purifiers that we are having by invitation only. So I'll send that information also. And I hope that folks do learn about CBE and get involved, and you can contact Carly or myself, and appreciate this time. Thank you.
And Massam, do we have anyone else on our list?
No, it was just Miss Margaret, who is not here right now.
Did Ayana want to share an announcement?
Yeah, I thought Ayana had one.
No, Charles, you covered it as far as the 14th. I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure working with all my CSC members. It's been a year since we've been together. We have made great strides, and I appreciate standing side by side and EJ with all of you.
Thank you, co-chair. And I just want to ask, if we really want action, then we have to participate. And they gave us $7,500 to put on something that's going to generate interest and let people know that the CERP is here. That when I tell people I'm on the CERP, don't nobody know what it means. So this block party that we're throwing on October 14th is an opportunity. That's going to be our coming out party, y'all. That's how they're going to find out that the East Oakland CERP is here and that we out here doing good work. Okay, so I need some of y'all active participants to volunteer to participate. And if we have to, we'll try to find some money to make sure that you can participate. But this is something that we should all be volunteering to do because it's about empowering East Oakland. So just send in your ideas about what we can do and how you want to participate, please. I'll be sending out a flyer to everybody.
Thank you, Charles. Ayana, do you want to close us out?
I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Thank you so much. You guys have been wonderful dealing with us, and we will see you next week. I mean, see you next month.
And could somebody please send out the link to the CAC retreat so that our CERT members can find out what the heck we doing on the other side? Because you guys need to know what we doing on this side for you guys. So please send that link out. You can join at any time tomorrow. We've been in the meeting from 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So that's how hard we working for you up here. So I would love for you guys to join in and be able to participate. Because you can say whatever you need to say, and you'll find out I'll be fighting for East Oakland.
Take care, everyone. It's been real. See you next month.
Thanks all.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
And please send that link out to all of our CSC members. Have a good night, everybody.
Igualmente.
Same to you. I will see you soon. Good night. Thank you for the interpretation.
Thank you.